Hey guys, welcome to the forest. We're just off of a bike path here, looking at a new one from iGO. This is the Core Extreme 2.0. Pretty cool. It's a fat bike. You can see those nice big fat tires. It's going to allow you to go all kinds of different places that a regular bike, it just might not be as comfortable or capable. So that's a bike path. We just took a little detour over here. Even mud, soft mud like that, you can navigate through this. You can go through soft sand. In their marketing material back at the website, they've got a guy like riding through the snow and stuff, and that is also possible. But I want to caution that if it's deep, like really, soft snow, the tires are still going to kind of cut through it, and then as it starts to get heavy, you can start to slide and stuff. So the float really works best on loamy terrain or sand, and you actually have to adjust the tire pressure to make that possible. So these are 5 to 30 psi. Right now we have them pretty high, closer to that 30 psi, because this is hard ground and it's going to be more efficient on a trail like this. Now the tires do give you some comfort, but there is increased drag and noise with these big nubs right here. We got some Kenda Crusade Sports. I've seen these tires on a bunch of other fat bikes, and they're pretty standard. I'm not seeing reflective sidewall stripes. In terms of puncture protection, it's probably kind of minimal, but they are fat tires and they're kind of a name brand. I've seen some other fat tires in the past called like Chow Yang that's maybe a step lower. Kenda's a brand that I totally recognize, and these look pretty good. In addition to the tire pressure, you can also adjust this suspension. It has preload right here, so you can preload the spring if you're someone who's a little bit heavier, or you can dial up compression and then lock this fork out if you want to. I tend to leave it unlocked because I'm a lighter weight rider and I want all the comfort I can get. In fact, by keeping that rear tire a little bit lower, maybe adding a suspension seat post, this is 27.2 millimeter seat post diameter right there, you could really get a nice comfortable ride, even if you weren't someone who actually wanted to go off-road. You just want like an SUV, kind of a fun electric bike, something with integrated lights, blaze lights, front and rear. This is not the world's brightest light. It has just one LED, but it does have a nice lens. It's aimable. It might bounce a little bit because it's on the arch of that suspension fork versus up here on the handlebars and stuff. And back here, we have another blaze light, single LED. Could be maybe obstructed a little bit by the top bar on the rack, but I like how it's visible from the sides and pretty well protected, because they do, occasionally a bike will tip or you've got cargo loaded up and the lights are a little bit more sensitive. So I actually really like this rack. It's not perfect, but it does have a platform on top. It's rated at 25 kilograms, which is roughly 55 pounds, which is great. That's pretty capable. And they've got these like flared pannier hangers. See these? And that's using standard gauge tubing versus this extra thick tubing up top. There's no Yep window, like this rectangular thing that's designed to fit with some of the older Yep racks, but the new Yep Maxi should fit on this if you wanted to take kids around. They don't really have like a big pannier blocker system here. They have this one support arm, right? There isn't another one here, and there's no bungee loop to connect to. So the rack is a little bit limited, but it's secured pretty well in 4 different spots. 2 on this side, 2 on that side. The black accents look pretty nice. We've got this, I called it Mac Black, but it's not quite black. It's a little bit bluish and minimalist on the decals. I like that the suspension fork is also black. We've got the black spokes, 12 gauge front and rear. We've got these nice wide fat tire specific rims, fat tire specific motor from Bafang, 500 watt up to 750, rated at up to 80 newton meters of torque. It's very capable. I've had a blast just zipping around on this thing, and it's rated up to 300 pounds. So potentially a larger rider. It only comes in one frame size. So that's a bit of a trade-off, but you can always adjust the seat post to be a little bit higher, maybe adjust that stem. See how this is not super long. I measured it at roughly 80 millimeters when it's fully straight, 0 to 60 degrees, so you can dial it up or down. By having it a little bit shorter and then having these 2 spacers and then this 20 millimeter like tapered spacer at the bottom, they're giving you more of an upright, comfortable body position, and that's totally how it's set up right now. It's like much more upright than forward aggressive. And so again, back to this like SUV concept. I like the upright body position because you can spot traffic, you can, you know, talk with your friends and stuff, your back and neck aren't gonna get as sore. And imagine you've got that suspension seat post, you got that suspension fork dialed in, and it's not super firm. You know, you're gonna get a little bit lower range, but you're gonna have fun. You're gonna be stable because of these bigger tires and stuff. So this platform has become really popular in recent years, fat tire electric bikes, and this is a full-size model, right? It's not a step through, it's not quite as approachable, but the frame is going to be a little bit stronger because of that diamond shape. Stepping over it, a lot of times I'm tempted to swing my leg over, but if you have a trunk bag or something, you can easily kind of bonk your shin, and that's happened to be quite a few times actually. So I tend to tip the whole bike towards me, step over like this. I've measured the standover height, the minimum saddle height, which means like basically the lowest the saddle can go, and put that information back at ElectricBikeReview.com so you guys can, you know, kind of feel through whether this is the right bike for you. iGO has been around like forever. I got into electric bikes in 2011, 2012, and they were already pretty well established. And they've been updating and improving their designs quite a bit in recent years and adding a lot of custom elements, right? Some of the other companies, maybe they have a bit more affordable bikes, but they're just taking a frame that a lot of companies use and kind of slapping some parts and maybe a paint job or something, and that's cool. iGO has done a lot to integrate the drive systems. So the motor here, this is pretty standard, the Bafang 500 watt like we were talking about, but the battery, this one's a lot more integrated. But they've done it in such a way that it doesn't actually sit in the frame. So this is a Reention Kirin battery. They use the older Reention batteries on some of prior year models, and they kind of sat in the frame. So this battery tips out from the side. It doesn't impact frame strength, which comes back to this bike being able to support heavier riders. And the battery is separate from the controller. So they've put the controller down in that box right there at the center of the bike. So at first I was like, is this a mid-drive? Because it almost looks like that's a motor, but it's not. That's just an electronic access point, basically. There's the motor controller in there and the wires and stuff. Most of the wires are internally rounded on this bike, and you'll notice they've got like the twist fit versus just the snap fit. So these are a little bit more durable, more water resistant. It's a pretty clean looking bike when you actually start to think about it. Yeah, there's a little bit more of a chunky look right there, but it's fairly well disguised behind this 42 tooth chain ring. Got that nice rust resistant chain. No slap guard on this bike, but they do have a derailleur guard, which is, again, if the bike tips over, you don't want the sensitive bits like the derailleur or that light getting bumped. So that's nice. They've done a few little extras. You could always use some clear box tape or buy a slap guard on Amazon or something, stick it on yourself. I'm having fun with this bike because I think they're almost completely sold out, at least for the first part of 2020 when I'm filming this review. And I think that's partially because, you know, fat bikes have become really popular. iGO's well recognized. It's a Canadian company, but they do sell all over North America. They have a great warranty. The price point is pretty good, $19.99 for this thing, USD, or $24.99 Canadian. Even though you don't get to pick a color, you don't get to pick a frame size, I think they chose really well. They set this thing up great. Like, it's a little bit more SUV than like aggressive off-road bike, but for a lot of people, the comfort is worth it. It's worth the trade-off. So coming back up to some of the touch points here, we've got locking velo grips. We've got mechanical disc brakes with the rubberized edge so your fingers don't get cold, and I guess it's just a little bit more comfortable. Got the integrated bell over here. And I like that these are black because some of the Tektro brake levers are silver and they just wouldn't match as nice. So that's attention to detail. I really appreciate that. Large 180 millimeter disc brake rotors down there, so front and rear. And that extra, that width is going to give you more surface area for cooling and a better mechanical advantage over this large, relatively heavy wheel. And speaking of weight, this bike weighs like 71.5 pounds, which is quite a bit. And then the battery's around 8 pounds, so you could and maybe should take the battery off before you lift this onto a car rack or try to wrangle it up some stairs or something like that. It's worth pointing out. So this is a charger, just a Sans, pretty common actually. I see these a lot of places. 2 amp, weighs about 1.5 pounds. And then I got the key, so I wanted to show you guys this. When you unlock it, it's actually pretty easy to do. I want to be careful though, because it kind of clicks out and then pivots out to the side, which is really nice. And this is the tubing I was talking about. See how it's not cut or anything? So the frame is made to be extra strong that way. And then again, about 8 pounds on this battery pack right here. I want to compliment the fender choice here. They use these black, really wide, very durable, and fairly quiet fenders. You'll notice that there's no like length adjustability here. They're just basically secure. And at first I saw this down here, I was like, oh, that's kind of ugly. Like, is that even on there? Because it's such a large like clamp. But they're not falling out of position or anything, and it actually feels pretty firm when I wiggled on it back at the shop. I'm visiting Cap's Electric Bike Shop over here in Port Moody near Vancouver, and it's just been a great resource. These guys have carried iGO for quite a while, and they set the bike up pretty well. They actually got a review unit for me and then sold it like pretty quickly. And again, this model's, it's kind of selling out. So I'm doing this review to try to help people who might already have the bike, or once they come back in stock later in the year or in future years. I think they are going to carry this model forward. And my goal is just to be really thorough when I get all the specs, so that if you find one of these used, or maybe you bought it and you just don't know the tire pressure rating, or the size of the axles or something like that, you'll have the information. So anyway, here's the other side of that electronic access box. Seems like plastic on the sides and aluminum alloy underneath, so it's pretty sturdy. And I don't think it's gonna reduce your clearance at all, because that chain ring, it is already a little bit taller than the box itself. I love that they got bottle cage bosses. I love that they got an aluminum alloy like chain ring guard on the outside, because that's going to protect your pant legs. I like that they position the kickstand far enough back that you're not going to get pedal lock. These are decent pedals, and actually probably really good for this application. See how they're open? I call that kind of like cage style, but I don't want to confuse people who remember cages where you like stick your foot into a cage. These are like open. They're aluminum alloy, so they shouldn't rust. They seem pretty durable, but I have seen bikes tip over and then this gets bent in and kind of sharpened. So you could get like a Welgo magnesium pedal or one of the thicker platforms. This is like the X style. And the reason having an open pedal like this is nice on a fat bike is you might be in a muddy or snowy terrain, and when you step down on the pedal, the mud and the snow is going to go right through the pedal instead of piling up. So good choice. It's little things like that. I mean, they did a great job. Again, we mentioned the disc brakes and stuff. Hydraulic disc brakes would have been really nice. That's one of the trade-offs. But at least these brake levers both have motor inhibitors, so as soon as you pull the brakes, it kills power to that motor. Again, 80 Newton meters of torque. You don't want to get out of control on this thing. It does have a throttle with full power in one of the 9 levels of assist. It doesn't work in 0, so you could always go to 0 or turn it off when you're getting on and off the bike. That's my advice. But if you bump this like that, the bike's kind of gonna take off. So having the brake levers and everything wired in is pretty nice. Also, this is using like a 32 pulse cadence sensor, so it's much higher resolution than the 12 magnet sensors that I see on a lot of other bikes, and those are external. This one's internal, so perfect fit for like a fat tire, snowy, muddy kind of a bike like this. Really fun. The saddle, it was some brand that I hadn't really heard of, but feels pretty comfortable to me. And I would say on the size of this bike, it's 19 inches from the top of the seat tube down to the center, the spindle right there. That's kind of a medium. It feels good to me, but I actually probably raise the seat even higher because I have a pretty long inseam. So if you're a really large person, this bike could feel a little small. You might have to like raise the saddle a little bit more, but for small and medium people, it's going to be fine. It's a very accessible bike, especially with the stem that I keep referring back to. So drivetrain wise, 42 tooth steel chainring, 14 to 28 tooth freewheel. This is Shimano Altus, and that's, you know, one step up from the base level. There's like Tourney, Altus, Acera, Alivio, Dior. So it's, you know, kind of gets the job done. 7 speeds, not a ton. The range here, 14 to 28 versus 11 to 32 or 11 to, you know, 36 or even more. It's not the highest end drivetrain, but it's proven. It's a little bit more affordable. That's part of how they're keeping the price reasonable. And they've got this nice rust-resistant KMC Z chain. I just wish they would have, maybe there is a slap guard or something and they just didn't put it on for the demo bike, but it's just such nice paint, right? Look at the graphics and everything. It's got this like matte finish. It's not so matte that you're gonna get too much fingerprints. You can see a little bit, but it's kind of a satin. I like that. You know, you want your bike to look good, and I think all the black and everything really blends in nicely there. So yeah, the rear fender is maybe a little bit potentially more bouncy than the rear. There's no extra support connection point right here, just one strut here, and then connections there. Because it's so thick, though, I haven't had a problem. I feel like it's pretty durable, and again, that could get caked with mud or snow or whatever, and so it's nice to have plastic versus steel that could rust, and aluminum alloy not only weighs more, but it can get bent out of position. So, you know, good job. Finally, up here to the display, key display. I like this thing. It is independent from the throttle, so you could kind of move it around a little bit. You can adjust the angle, but it kind of locks into place once you've tightened it down. And it leaves plenty of room here for like a phone mount, maybe on the stem, or over here you could use it for GPS or whatever. And I like that, but there are no USB ports or charging or anything like that. It's just kind of what you see is what you get. We'll press the power button here for a second. It comes to life pretty quickly. And then if you hold the plus button, we get backlighting. So I like that. I wanted to turn that on because we are in sort of a shady, foresty area here. We'll just do the headlights again. Pretty nice up there. One LED, again, it's just kind of checks the box, but at least it protrudes out, so you get a little bit of side visibility. For a black bike, I'm always just thinking about how to stay visible, because even if you're mostly on a trail, when you cross the street, you want to be seen. Okay, so we've got the headlight indicator, like 5 ticks on that battery infographic, each step representing 20% step. Odometer, current speed in miles per hour, and I will show you how to change that to kilometers per hour. And then that's a trip distance down here. If we press the power button, we go to trip, and then time. So I think originally this was, oh, and then watts, power. There we go. So this is the odometer. So we got odometer, trip, timer, a lot of good stuff. And then we're in assist level 0, which means pedal assist isn't going to work and the throttle's not going to work. So it's a really safe mode to start in. If I take it up here to the highest level assist, 9, you have to click quite a few times, and it doesn't circle. It doesn't go like back down to 0. You have to click down, 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 all the way down. So it's a little bit, it's more levels of assist than, I think I'm comfortable with like 5 or 7. 9's kind of a lot. But anyway, let's try something. We take it all the way up to 6, turn it off. Okay. Turn it back on. And we're back to 0. So I think that's a safety thing, and it turned the lights off. So here we go. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to point that out. You hold plus to turn the lights on and off. The bike starts in 0, so it's pretty safe. It's not going to get out of control. And then if you hold minus, we get walk mode, which could be very useful if you do happen to get a flat tire, or if you've got like a loaded rack and you just don't feel comfortable on the terrain. Maybe it's that deep snow situation where it's just too deep to pedal, or you know, you're slipping all around, so you get off the bike. Walk mode can really help, because again, 71.5 pounds is not a super lightweight bike. But again, you know, you don't have to add much to this bike. You already have the fenders, you already have the lights, and those add a bit to the overall weight. Now for settings, if we hold plus and minus, we get into settings. So TC is like trip clear. Yeah, let's do that. So yes. Okay, backlighting, we're at 3, but we could take it down if it's bothering you at night. And then U, that's like miles per hour, kilometers per hour. That's what I was talking about before. And then it comes back to trip clear. Now you can hold plus and minus again for even more menus. So it's like voltage, let's see here, voltage 2, voltage 3. Oh my gosh, that's not really what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the next menu. Let's see here, if I hold power, it's gonna kick us out. There we go. Now I just press the plus and minus to navigate. SC, current, pedal assist levels, I think 4, 3, current. This is where, you know, there are a lot of menus, and I don't want to get things goofed up too much here, but it's always neat when you can discover more things. And then password. So maybe there's I think that's password. You can get in there and adjust some more stuff with help from the company. At this point, I'm gonna just opt out and maybe take you guys on a little demo ride for this and show you what the motor sounds like, and how responsive this thing is, because it really does a pretty good job. So I prefer fat tire products that do have a throttle, because if you are actually in soft terrain, it can be really hard to get the bike going if you only have pedal assist. You're trying to balance, you get up on the bike, you start pedaling, maybe you're in the right gear, maybe you're not, and then it takes a second for the motor to kick in. Whereas with the throttle, especially one that works from 0, we just go up here. Any of these levels of assist, I got full throttle power in it, and it's variable speed. So if I just feather that throttle, we'll get nice, smooth, active There we go. Look at that. No problem. Now my only focus is on balancing and ducking. Just circle around here. Nice little hill right there. Oh yeah. And we made it up. That was pretty good. You know, I'm not a super heavy rider. I only weigh like 135 pounds. But to be able to ride at slow speeds using the throttle is pretty impressive. Get a little bit of comfort with that suspension fork up front. The tires are a little bit more full than I would prefer, just because I am a lightweight rider. There we go. Maybe we should do a speed test. And a no hands test. There we go. I'm gonna take up the pedal assist. There we go. That's the stability I was talking about before, even on grass. Pretty quiet. Like I'm not hearing a lot of clinking. I'm not hearing the fenders bouncing around a whole lot. And that's on grass. I'm gonna hop over onto the concrete here in just a second and show you what that sounds like. Really, not too bad. Not too bad. And again, I think that's partially because our tire pressure is pretty high right now. I'm not really in a position to do it because I don't have the pump and gotta ride back to the shop, but this would be a really interesting application right here. See how it's like low tide, so the ocean is kind of out. We've just got these mud flats. You know, people walk around on those and stuff, especially if they dry out a little bit and got bare feet and sandals. But with a fat bike at low tire pressure, you could probably ride around on that, and that would be like a racetrack or something. It's just really kind of thought-provoking looking at that today and thinking about all the possibilities. On a recent review, someone was asking me, how hard is the bike to pedal like without assist? Just as if the battery ran out or something. Maybe you've got a little bit of battery left, but you want to conserve that for the lights. So I wanted to run that test. This bike doesn't have a whole lot of like really low gears, again, because it goes up to 28 tooth instead of 32, or, you know, and the chain ring also comes into play, but it's a little bit more work. I'm going to try to demonstrate that, and I am starting in the lowest gear. You can see the chain is on the biggest ring back there, so got a little bit of a hill ahead of us. I'm gonna try to hold the camera and make this work. I'm standing up initially. There we go. Pedaling, it's like 4 miles per hour. There's a little incline. Try to get some speed going into this. And I have to stand up at this point or I'm gonna kind of peter out, right? And so that's where it's nice to have that throttle. You know, just kick it up to assist level 1, kind of tiptoe forward like this, get yourself back on track to climb the rest of this incline. So that wasn't super steep, but it demonstrates, you know, just these are heavy bikes. There's a little bit of resistance because of the tires, and we're in efficient high tire pressure right now. So keep that in mind. And again, the drivetrain on this bike is one of the compromises. It's just not as wide. There aren't as many options for climbing. Okay guys, it's sprinkling a little bit, but we're staying dry thanks to these fenders. 42 tooth steel chainring up front. It's not narrow wide. There's not a guide, whether it's a plate or an actual surrounding guide. So you could probably have this bounce off inward. The shifters are also kind of interesting. We have like 3 steps on the low shifter. So if you're going to a lower gear, but only a single and then sort of 1 pull on the high gear. I kind of like the levers that pull or push for your index finger or your thumb. Not the biggest complaint in the world, but just something that I noticed about these 2 core models. iGO does have another one. It's like the Core Elite 2, and these both use the same battery and kind of the same technology, although that one uses a Shengyi motor versus the Bafang, and this one's rated higher, 500 to 750 watts instead of 500 to 650. So this is the beast. This thing, you know, weighs more and it has a more powerful motor. So I mentioned the 32 pulse cadence sensor down there that's very responsive, and then the motor inhibitors. I'm going to ride along in a higher level of assist, so you'll hear that motor really pronounced, kind of a zing, because it's a geared motor, right? So these are more compact, they freewheel efficiently, they're lighter weight, but there's a little bit more noise because there are gears in there, and you'll hear that. I'm also going to switch gears a little bit, maybe ride off the curb and see if that chain does make contact. If it did, it would be in the higher gears because those are the smaller sprockets, and it puts the chain closer to the chainstay. Whoa, nature alert. Got some baby geese over here. Go check it out. We don't want to get bit or bother them too much, but aren't those cute? Hey guys. Have a good day. Okay, let's put it back down. Heard the chain a little bit when I hit those really hard bumps, but otherwise this is a pretty quiet bike. Now I'm just going to do pedal assist, specifically no throttle, and that way you can see how quickly it engages and disengages. Of course, the brake test. Now, mechanical brakes, usually the right lever goes to the rear wheel, so that wire has to go further, and it can seat in over time, and which means that the lever is going to come closer to, you know, kind of pinching your fingers a little bit, or you're actually hitting the bar. There are barrel adjusters, and you can usually use an Allen key and adjust it yourself, but that's where hydraulic disc brakes are nice, because the hydraulic levers, the left and the right, they feel the same. It's not like you have to pull harder on the right lever, or that there's more resistance in that cable housing. So that's, you know, it's a little bit of a trade-off. You can also adjust the reach a little bit easier and stuff. That keeps these a little bit more accessible for DIY maintenance, and of course the price is lower. Here's the slide out. Felt very stable and controlled going up and down off the little bumps, and then that last hill climb, I got up. I didn't have to pedal. Let me just focus on balancing. It's really nice. I'm just kind of finishing the ride, you guys, back at the store. I just want to say thank you very much, Norm. This is the manager of Cap's Bicycle Store, and we're at the Port Moody location, but you guys have been around since like 1932, right?
1932 was when Cap originally opened caps, which is the original location, which is still in Sapperton, which is New Westminster.
That's fantastic.
It is. We're celebrating 88 years this year.
And you guys carry so many brands like Magnum and Specialized and Bulls, and then iGO. And do you like iGO? Are they working?
Love iGO. Love iGO. Love Adamo. All the people that with iGO.
They're Canadian. They've been around for quite a while as
2006.
well. Yeah. Sweet. Well, I'm glad I could catch you. Phone's ringing off the hook. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
See you, Norm.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice to be out from the woods and have a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. We're not getting rained on, so that's always nice. For the full written review on this, all the specs and photos and stuff, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. There's a cool comparison tool so you can look at other full-size fat tire bikes, compare them back to back and look at the specs, look at the pricing and availability, and then there's a dealer tool so you can search and see if there are iGO dealers near you. I appreciate you guys. I also read the comments and look for bikes that people are excited to see reviewed. I'll keep an eye on that. I love y'all. Ride safe. We'll see you next time.